Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week of Wrestling with Wrestling. And today we're coming to you on a very special day. As all wrestling fans watching this probably know, this is March 16th or 316 for those of us who write the date with the month first and the day second. 316, Steve Austin Day. Happy Steve Austin Day, everybody. And here with me, as always, my co-host, the great Doc Gregory. Doc, how's it going, buddy? Happy Steve Austin Day.
Oh, happy Steve Austin Day to you, sir. 316 says this show is going to kick some ass. And you know what? Oh, God, I am the American dream. I do not think that I am too extreme, and I'm a handsome son of a bitch, and I'm going to get a good job and be real rich. Welcome to Wrestling with Wrestling. I'm having a great week so far.
I like that. I like that. That should be our theme song.
Bobby Brown goes down. Mr. Frank Zappa himself, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with that.
Yes.
Great artist. Underrated by many people, but listen to him for a while, you know? It's like you might not know Pink Floyd, but once you listen to one Pink Floyd song, you're like, damn. Yeah. Wow. Same with Queen.
Oh, fuck yeah. And if you know a little bit of Frank Zappa, you'll get so many jokes on Mystery Science Theater because they reference Frank Zappa all the time on Mystery Science Theater. So here we are. We are less than 3 weeks away from WrestleMania, and we're going to review Raw as we usually do. But before that, we have a few things to do first, including, as we like to do every week when we open the show, responding to some of your viewer questions. So, Doc, my friend, have you had a chance to cull a couple of interesting questions from the comments from last week's show? And can we answer a few of those for our viewers today?
I did peruse through them. I did not pick the odd topic of the week, but there are some things that happened this week on Raw that we'll probably side talk about. So I think that'll fill that in.
Okay.
Our first question comes from Donovan Frey. Yes, it's good to see you too, sir. It says, I came across an old friend from wrestling days by the name of Mark. You guys may have known him as Muhammad Hassan, even though he wasn't Arabian. To those who have heard of him, you know how that turned out. The guy was essentially buried for betraying a character WWE told him to play. So my question is this. What superstar and or diva has WWE fucked up the most? And always thanks for what you do. Thank you.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I didn't actually field you with the questions pre-show.
Well, that's cool. It'll be a hot take. I mean, actually, Muhammad Hassan himself would be a pretty good one for that. Because the thing about that gimmick that always bothered me was that he was always booked as a heel, but the things he was saying were completely legit. Like, I mean, he himself was not actually a Muslim, was not actually from a Middle Eastern country. I think he's actually Italian as far as his actual ethnicity. But the character he was playing was a guy from an Arab Muslim background who was complaining about racism and discrimination in the U.S. after 9/11, people mistreating him because he was a Muslim, which was real, which was something that was actually going on and still goes on today. And for some reason that made him a heel. Like, I thought, wait a minute. Like the person of color from a different religion who is complaining about being mistreated is the heel? I never really got that. I don't know. There are other examples you could think of. Until he got his shit together and they gave him a better gimmick, you could have almost said that about William Regal. Remember Steven Regal, the real man's man?
He's a man, such a man.
I mean, we laugh at it now because everything turned out okay, and he had a pretty good career. But I mean, that was terrible. Like, whose fucking idea was that? I don't know. Do you have any that pop to mind, Doc?
Oh my, that is a really tough question. I mean, they have fucked up a lot of people's careers, gave them really bad gimmicks. People that had a lot of talent, I guess, of a recent mind, I'd have to think of. And this is another throwback to Frank Zappa song called "Dancing Fool." I'm gonna have to throw out Johnny Curtis with Fandango. You know,
Yeah.
Fandango, where the fuck you go, though? You know?
Really.
But I mean, this happens time and time again. You know, I mean, Jesus, I never thought I'd see the day where they would give jobbers like airtime.
Yeah.
But it's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about that later. Stay tuned.
Yeah, right.
But no, I mean, there is a lot of people like that. The WWE have just not done well. I mean, any big guy, Jesus, El Gigante.
Oh yeah, Giant Gonzalez was terrible. Yeah.
Gonzalez, yeah. I mean, Great Khali. I mean, these guys are huge. They might not have a lot of mobility, but eventually they shouldn't be losing to small ass people. I mean, they should be able to just literally control the ring as to their will. They're huge like that, but they eventually become like a fucking walking joke. So those guys get buried time and time again. Our last great giant, Big Show's done quite well, and Andre.
Yeah.
There you go. And hopefully Braun Strowman does well.
Yeah.
Let's go to our next question. Shy Guy. What wrestler or wrestlers past or present do you think should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame but have a snowball's chance in hell to be? My picks are China, Kurt Angle, and Jeff Hardy. That's what he says. Also, who do you think will be inducted into the Hall of Fame in the future that shouldn't be?
Well, in terms of someone who deserves to be in there but probably won't ever get in, I would probably say Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express. I think they should be in there already. And I think it would be worth it just for Cornette's acceptance speech. Like that, I would put him in just for that. And also because the Midnight Express is one of the greatest tag teams ever, and they just deserve to be in there because they were so important to wrestling and were so fucking awesome. That would be my pick for who won't get in but should. As for who will get in but shouldn't, I mean, it's hard to say at this point because they've inducted people in already who, if it was like a real Hall of Fame, probably shouldn't be in there. But it doesn't really matter because the Hall of Fame is a work. You know, you get in if you get in the Hall of Fame if you're a name that people recognize and if Vince likes you, basically. You know, so I don't know if there's anybody who's going to get in who doesn't deserve it. I mean, that's not really how the Hall of Fame works. If it was like a legitimate sports Hall of Fame and we treated pro wrestling as like it was a real sport, you know, then, I mean, none of those celebrities should be in there. You know, they shouldn't have a celebrity wing. They shouldn't have like Pete Rose and Donald Trump and Drew Carey in there. Like that doesn't make any sense at all. So, I mean, I don't really know who's going to get in who doesn't deserve it. But as far as who probably won't, I would say top of my list would be the Midnight Express.
My picks, I guess, a snowball's chance in hell of getting in. I would say my biggest pick of all would be the crippler Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
And possibly Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah.
But yours also go very well at the top of that list of never getting a chance in. China as well. Kurt Angle, I wouldn't say that's a snowball's chance in hell that he wouldn't get inducted. And Jeff Hardy, I would have to say this goes onto my list of Hall of Fame people that should not be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and that goes for people like the Hardy Boys. Yes, and they have inducted people into the Hall of Fame that, to me, aren't Hall of Fame status. I would first eliminate people like Donald Trump, get him out of the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I believe there's room for a celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame if they actually had a building.
Yeah.
But yeah, Donald Trump needs to be kicked out. People like Kevin Nash, sorry, Big Kev, but really, Hall of Fame. So yeah, there's tons of people there. I would not induct the Hardy Boys. I just really never got behind them, never really supported them, never really cared for them at all, even though they kept my wife's store in business for all the way through the 90s. She was a manager at Hot Topics through the 90s, and boy, did the Hardy Boys really, and Lita, I mean, all those people, and Edge will talk about on his show that he fucking went into Hot Topics. Wrestlers, when they came to this area, always came through my wife's store, and she would tell me stories about that, and they would buy up fucking Hot Topic merchandise. That was 90s stuff. So but just never gained appreciation from him. And these days you got Matt Hardy thinking he's holier than thou. He has enough rub to get his no talent girlfriend work. So I mean, I'm sorry, I might be a little hardcore on the Hardy Boys, and you guys might like them, but I just am not one of those people, and I love tag team wrestling.
Yeah.
Our next question comes from Mr. Denny, who says, pick a tag team partner from the roster, and what feud between both of your teams, and what would a feud between both of your teams look like? So I had to pick a guy, and you had to pick a guy.
Oh boy. Okay. Who's my guy from the roster? Who? Well, now that he's up on the main roster, I'll go with Sami Zayn. I like Sami Zayn.
I'm going to have to go and take your boy. I'm going to take Dean Ambrose.
Yes. Oh my God. Well,
I would say our feud's going to look a little bit, high flying, a little crazy all over the ring. Going to be using some hardcore styles. Definitely, I see some ladders, some chairs, some ringside tables getting broken, some monitors getting thrown around. Hopefully, no referees are standing in the way when things getting thrown around. But yeah, I see a pretty hard hitting matchup, and definitely, Steve. I'm not sure what his abilities are, but I do know and studied Sami Zayn, so you got to watch where he's going, and you got to realize he throws a tease out there from time to time, so you can't always buy into what he's going to be throwing at you. Right. You're like, oh damn, and then he stops and goes, check me out. I'm exactly. But what would be your opinion on how our match would go?
Well, I was going to say when you were talking about we're going to need to throw in ladders and tables and shit. I mean, that's a good idea because we're going to need to do something to make up for the fact that I can't work. So I mean, like I can't really do shit. So
you can stand around and throw Shane McMahon punches, couldn't you?
Yeah. Apparently, not being able to work can get you into the main event if you're the right person. Yeah, so I guess since it's a tag match, I could do like Bobby Heenan used to do, except Bobby could actually work and stand on the apron and just run my mouth and let Sammy actually work most of the match, and then I could come in and get like the unwanted hot tag. That's one of my favorite spots from like when they would do tag team matches where one of the partners is like someone who's not a wrestler and is just booked in there for punishment or because he has to be there, and he gets tagged in and he's like, oh God, like what's gonna happen now? And then I get dragged in. You and Dean can take turns kicking the shit out of me and pin me.
Well, we kind of hear psychology. This is kind of probably how it would work. Is we get we would want to put you good guys on top and give you a good pop at the very beginning. So we do something there, and you parade around as we powder around the ring. Sami Zayn would be the first one in, so he works and keeps on top for a little bit before he tags you in. And then you do just a little bit and get cut off. You're going to take the majority of the heat. Sami Zayn needs to get the hot tag because he's the one that's going to come in and get the response from the crowd. That's what you need. See, I'm just thinking psychology.
I like that. Yeah,
I like that. Get the hot tag, so he comes in like a house on fire.
I like that. I could probably sell pretty good. I mean, and when I
lay there, man. I mean, shit.
When I first get tagged in, I could put on like an arm bar or something. Take a hip toss, and then there you go. We're off to the races.
I know guys that know how to fucking work till just like any other great wrestler that will tell you that they're not going to take any bumps tonight.
Well, how are we going to work a match, buddy?
Exactly. It's a lot of fucking jawing and just distractions and rest holds.
Yeah, exactly. We'll stall for 10 minutes and then you put me in a sleeper. or put me in a chokehold and I'll tap out. Like, I guess that's how it's going to have to be.
But that's actually a good question. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah,
thanks a lot, Mr. Jenny. Our last question here comes from Vitamin W. What do you guys think of the match quality of the main events? The main event is usually my least favorite match on Raw. It's often poor quality with a cliffhanger ending. Do you think this hurts Raw, regularly ending a solid show on a flat note?
Well, ending it on a flat note is bad, but ending it on an inconclusive note. I mean, remember, Raw is their number one show, but Raw's function is to build up to the pay-per-view. So if the main event of Raw doesn't have a conclusive ending, that usually doesn't bother me in and of itself, as long as that ending is booked in such a way that it makes me interested in seeing what's going to happen next. You know, like if they end the main event of WrestleMania on like a double count out, or, you know, disqualification through outside interference or something like that, that would make me angry. Cause I'm like, this is a fucking pay-per-view. The matches need to have finishes here, you know? But on Raw, even if it's the main event, if the match ends in kind of a schmoz or whatever, or the referee throws it out, that doesn't really bother me. As long as it makes me interested in what happens next. And I mean, I haven't really noticed the match quality of the main events being terrible lately. I mean, every once in a while, you know, it goes up and down. Not all the matches are great, but I haven't really noticed the main event match quality on Raw being like standing out as being bad lately. In fact, for the most part, the quality of the matches is one of the things that makes the show watchable. Because I mean, it's such a long fucking show. They do at least throw in like a couple of good 10-minute matches for that 3 hours. To keep you interested as a wrestling fan. I don't know. What have you noticed about that, Doc? Have you noticed the main events having like a shitty quality lately?
Well, I do realize I'm watching television and television that is on every week. And I'm not talking about seasonal, not like Lucha Underground or any other television program, not even any sports leagues go year round. WWE do this shit year fucking round. But they are a television program, and the way I normally watch something and know I like something, I go into usually a television program and go, oh, yeah, that explains what happened last week. Oops, sorry about that. But yeah, that explains what happens last week. Okay, moving on. Ooh, this looks good. This could get interesting. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Woo! Okay, we're calming down a little bit. Okay, we're putting back up again. Yeah, oh, right. Yo, what? The show's over? Fuck! Cliffhanger.
Yeah, exactly.
That's television. That's how that works. So yeah, you might get the down note. It's not exciting. It's not a conclusive finish or something like that. But that is what television's built upon. Is that cliffhanger ending that will bring you back to its lead show, which is Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I think a lot of us were spoiled by the Monday Night Wars. You know, when they would just give away like pay-per-view matches on free weekly TV, and then when that sort of faded away, it's like, oh, none of the matches, like the main event didn't have a finish, or you know, like you said, as long as it gives me a hook to make me interested in what happens next, I don't really get that uptight about the main events on Raw not having like a conclusive finish. Because I understand the whole point of the show is to get you to watch the next show. Like that's what it's there for, you know? So.
Yeah, as much as I would love to watch an episode of Walking Zombie where it was 60 minutes of nonstop like zombie apocalypse killing and chewing and ripping things apart, they have to have their down spots in a television show and that reason to bring it back. I mean, that's how that program is built upon. Just look at wrestling as a television show, which is what it is. It's a running television program, and it follows the same format as any fucking television show.
Yeah. Was that the last question?
That was the last question. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate them. And I didn't even actually think about them, so my thoughts are spontaneous. Steve's thoughts are spontaneous. We didn't practice at all. Woo! Oh.
And it worked just fine.
We go live. Yeah. Sometimes you gotta say fuck it and do it live.
You gotta call it in the ring, which I wouldn't know anything about because, as I said, I can't work. I've never done it. So, but yeah, we always like to start the show by answering your questions. So if you're watching the show live, wait till the stream is over and then you can leave a comment. If you're watching it in a recorded version after we've already done this, just leave a comment on this video, ask us a question, and Doc will collect, 3 or 4 of them for next week, and we will answer them at the beginning of next week's show. We love the questions. Please leave a comment and ask us a question. All right, Doc, you want to talk about Raw?
I'm ready to talk about Raw.
Let's talk about Raw. There was a lot to talk about. It was an eventful show, although not always in a good way. Well, first of all, Raw was live this week from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
The home of the worst football team in history, ladies and gentlemen.
And as a wrestling fan, Pittsburgh will now and forever be the town where Bret Hart said that if you gave the United States an enema, Pittsburgh is where you'd stick the hose. Thank you, Bret, for giving me that metaphor that I can now never forget whenever I hear the name of Pittsburgh.
Well, at least he said one thing throughout his career that made me pop.
Damn. Damn. Also,
I'm a Philly guy. I'm going to come at you hard.
Also the hometown of Kurt Angle and the hometown of the great Bruno Sammartino. So we're the adopted hometown of the great Bruno Sammartino. So there we go.
I'll give you that.
Not that, I mean, Pittsburgh didn't do anything for that. They just happened to live there. And we actually start off the show with a match. I can't remember the last time that happened. Holy shit, they started Raw with a match. Now, technically, the New Day did cut their little promo before the match, but it was only a few minutes, and it was leading directly into the match. It wasn't like the fucking 10-minute, promo duel that they usually do to start the show. So they pretty much started straight off with a match. And the match was the New Day defending the tag team titles under the Freebird rule, because Xavier Woods was in the match instead of Kofi, versus the League of Nations team of Alberto Del Rio and Rusev. And I thought this was a pretty good opening segment. I thought the match was good. It was solid. It wasn't like it didn't, have me jumping out of my seat, but it was good. And the crowd seemed into it. And it was sort of a different dynamic with the New Day because Xavier actually worked the match and Kofi was on the outside instead of the other way around like they usually do it. The finish, the finish was a roll up, which is like, I hate roll ups, but Xavier pulled the tights a little bit because the New Day, even though they're pretty much baby faces now, are still kind of heelish. And he rolled Rusev up after a distraction and got the pin on him with a little bit of pulling the tights. And then after the match, all four members of the League of Nations put just the most epic beat down on the New Day that we've seen for a couple weeks. Like almost not quite as brutal as the Triple H Roman Reigns beatdown, but they fucking take their time and beat the shit out of them. And take turns hitting their finishes. And it ends with Xavier first eating that double stomp in the corner from Alberto and then getting put into the accolade by Rusev. And he's like screaming while Rusev has him in the accolade. I thought it was a great angle. I thought they got some really impressive heat from the live crowd. Like the live crowd was booing the shit out of them as they were beating up the New Day. So I thought that was a really good sign that the New Day is over as baby faces and that League of Nations is actually getting over and getting heat as heels. So I thought that was terrific. And I thought it was a good match to open the show. What did you think?
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, you had Alberto Del Rio, great technical wrestler. He can work his way around the ring, and I love Rusev and it was a perfect matchup, and that's why I think they put Xavier in there because he's almost like he's a rarity when it comes to New Day that you get to see Xavier perform in the ring. Yeah. But when you do, you realize how fucking special he is. He's mostly utilized outside and their chatterbox because he's so good at that. So like they want to use him for his strong points, but man, when you put him in the ring, you realize what kind of future this kid's got. And Big E matches the strength. And I thought it was a really strong matchup. Even Xavier had his moments going outside the ring to play his little trombone. And yeah, they win by a roll up, which I thought was okay in this moment because it was kind of a 4-on-3 or like a 4-on-3 kind of matchup. They were so they can get a little cheating in if they want to. But man, what a crazy ass beatdown! Every single one of them hitting their finisher. I think they were probably going to skip out on Rusev if it wasn't for Rusev kind of like stepping up and it's like, what about me? What about me? I want to do it because you saw him actually step up and it's like, I want to do what?
Right. Which, yeah, absolutely.
So he got his moment in, but on the replay later on that evening, because probably won't talk about the replay, they completely skipped that Rusev
Yeah.
did his. I don't even know if that was meant, but Rusev jumped in there and did that. And you can clearly see that he called that on his own. But man, I mean, that was sweet because it wasn't really needed to get the New Day over. But to really make their transition that they're going to be baby faces now, it's going to take some major heat coming from a heel team like the League of Nations. So I think that the Speakdown is what really is going to start it. You know, it's pretty much has happened. Next week they're going to come out and you're going to see a little bit of the same New Day, but they're going to be a little bit more serious as well because they just had their asses handed to them.
Yeah, and it actually creates some heat between New Day and League of Nations, which they haven't really had to this point. I mean, they've been building to them having a feud, but it's mostly been, well, New Day makes fun of them, and League of Nations cuts promos on New Day saying how much they suck or whatever. But now there's actually some heat between them. Now it's like, oh, now New Day have been beaten down and hurt, and now they're going to want revenge, and League of Nations are going to want to get those tag titles and to keep, you know, proving that they're better than the New Day. So now there's actually some heat between it and some actual something to sort of grab onto as a fan to say, oh, I really want to see this match now, you know, which they didn't have before.
They clearly can't be happy when you see them on TV again. It'd probably be SmackDown, you know, they'd probably be popping up on SmackDown, but I would hope that they'd save something for Raw. Yeah,
me too. It would after that beatdown, it might be a good idea to keep them off SmackDown altogether. Just show the replay so people don't forget about it, and then have them do whatever the next thing is next week on Raw. All right, next, Dean Ambrose, Doc's tag team partner in our imaginary feud, comes out, and first he reminds us that he actually beat Triple H at Roadblock, although technically he didn't because he pinned him for a 3 count, but his foot was under the bottom rope, so the pin did not count. We didn't talk about Roadblock, by the way. I thought Roadblock was a decent show. It didn't wind up changing anything or actually being important to the story at all, but I thought it was a good show.
Yeah, there's really no point in talking about it. Yeah, we really talk about WWE because since NXT guys really showed up, all the other ones, there's no reason to talk about it.
That's true. That NXT tag match was great. So Dean, what happened was he pinned Triple H for a 3 count at Roadblock, but his foot was under the bottom rope, so the referee ruled out the pin. He waved it off, and then Triple H, you know, Dean tried the elbow drop on the announce table outside and missed, and crawled back in the ring, and Triple H pedigreed him and pinned him. So that's how it went at Roadblock.
I like that.
Me too. Oh, me too. I thought it was a good match. I wish Dean had won, but then again, I knew he wasn't going to. So.
Yeah, and I completely accepted that finish. I figured
it was a good finish.
That Triple H had to win somehow, and he didn't cheat to win. He pinned him cleanly.
And I like that he pedigreed him like the first chance he got. It was like, I'm going to beat him while I have a chance, you know, which I thought was good. It made it look like Dean was actually dangerous. Triple H didn't just play with him. He fucking grabbed him and pedigreed him the first chance he got and pinned him. Was like, okay, let's just get this over with so I can get out of here with my title. I agree. I thought it was really good.
Well, could Trips be wrestling smarter these days due to the influence? Maybe obviously he has influence on NXT because it's a great fucking product. But has that product influenced Triple H's ability in the ring? Because it's like, yeah, that was a great matchup he had with Dean Ambrose, a guy who is pushing retirement. It was an amazing performance.
I think maybe the fact that he is with NXT, like he's sort of in the role of like a teacher, like maybe that's kind of rubbing off on him a little. Maybe he's thinking more, you know, in terms of more psychology and in terms of like critically, like, okay, I'm in my 40s. I'm the old guy in this match. Dean is like the young up and comer who's got me beat by, 10 or 15 years and, is going to be around for a while. So if I'm working this match as the old guy, I shouldn't be taking my time and walking around and showboating. I should be fucking right down to business because I want to put this young guy away. Maybe part of that is because I'm sure that's the kind of things that they are teaching them in NXT. Like judging by how good a lot of the matches are in NXT, they obviously are being taught a really strong grasp of psychology and, make your moves make sense and, make sure that there's logic and consistency to how you work your matches.
that truly comes from wrestlers building wrestlers and not just promoters building wrestlers. I mean, it's fucking brilliant. Finally, somebody got that shit right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and boy, they absolutely did. They absolutely did. So Dean talks about his match with Triple H, and then he gets interrupted by Paul Heyman and Brock. And they come out on the stage, and Heyman hypes Brock versus Ambrose, their street fight at WrestleMania, and he says that match is going to be the main event because any match that Brock Lesnar works is the main event, no matter what they say. And he says, Dean Ambrose was the only person foolish enough to challenge Brock to a fight at WrestleMania. And he's gonna try to make sure that Brock doesn't hurt him before then, because if Brock gets his hands on Dean before WrestleMania, then he's going to kill Dean. And then there won't be a match for Brock at WrestleMania because nobody else is going to be crazy enough to challenge Brock Lesnar. And Dean sort of tries to egg Brock on, tries to goad him into coming down to the ring and getting into a fight. But Heyman's like, no, we're not going to do that. And he does like kind of a pitch for WrestleMania on the WWE network. And then he's like, thank you all. Good night. And they play Brock's music and Heyman leaves, but Brock stays out there and he thinks about it for a second. And then he walks down to the ring and he's going to get in Dean's shit. But Dean opens his jacket and pulls out a crowbar that he's had the entire time. And he's like, come on, Brock, come on in. I got something for you. Brock fucking takes his time walking around the ring. Looks like he's going to walk out. Teases getting in the ring. Dean takes a swing at him with the crowbar. Brock backs up, walks away. And that's pretty much it. And I thought I really liked this. I thought Dean did a good job putting himself over for beating Triple H, but not really. I thought that was good. I thought Brock acting a little bit more like a heel here was good, because I think they should be sort of pushing us to be cheering for Dean in this match at WrestleMania. I think Dean's going to be the underdog, obviously. And I think if they position it so that Dean is a little bit more in that babyface position than Brock, that's the smart way to do it. And I have no idea what's going to happen in that match. I don't know what their plan is or what is going to actually happen at WrestleMania, but I think the right move is for Dean to win this match. But we'll see. But anyway, I thought this was pretty good. What do you think?
Well, I saw Dean come out, and I watch wrestling pretty much all the time, and I see the repetitive things time and time again, the same entrance, everything. So it's like, if you ever get like that Sunday morning paper where they show you a picture and they show you another picture and they say, find the 10 differences in these pictures, and then you get the circle. Well, Dean Ambrose walks out, and I immediately go, his jacket's zipped up. His jacket's never zipped up. He's got something in his jacket.
Yeah.
I immediately went there because it's out of the ordinary. That's not how he comes out. So surely I knew something was in his jacket, and it was produced, of course, as the crowbar. But of course, he stood there and jawed a little bit about his WrestleMania matches as he tried to pick whatever it was in the back of his mouth out, because he's like always like,
Yeah.
checking the back of his teeth or whatever. I think it was a little chicken shit of him to pull out that crowbar. I mean, you're the guy who can take an ass whip and wants to go to Suplex City and all that bullshit that you spout, and you surely will, Dean Ambrose, go to Suplex City, because you really don't know who you're fucking with here. This is Brock Lesnar, and that's, of course, he needs that crowbar because that's the only way he's going to be able to survive. I mean, this is why it's a street fight, because we need some aspect other than just Dean Ambrose to beat Brock Lesnar. And that's why we are in this street fight. So perfect match for Dean to finally win one, but not because he's physically able to beat him, just because maybe he's cunning enough to beat him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sort of makes the street fight stipulation kind of smart, because as far as I know, they want to keep Brock around after WrestleMania. Like, I would say, based on what he said in his podcast with Steve Austin a couple months ago, he's going to be around for at least another year, and then he might just, call it a career and retire or go do something else. So, to me, the obvious booking decision is to have Dean win, not only because I think Dean is going to be the babyface and the underdog, but also because Dean just doesn't win that much. And if you want him to actually be a star for you and maybe be a main eventer for you, he's going to have to win matches at some point. And having him beat Brock at WrestleMania would be like a huge deal. But at the same time, you don't want to kill Brock. You don't want to have Brock lose clean in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania to Dean Ambrose. I mean, it'll make Dean, but it'll kill Brock. And then you got, what are you going to do with Brock for the next year? So you put him in a street fight so Dean can hit him with a chair or hit him with a crowbar or hit him with another foreign object, perhaps, and get the pin.
Throw him off a stage.
Yeah, yeah, right. And so Dean will win, but Brock will have an out. Brock will still be able to look tough because he lost, but he had to get, put through a table and get cracked with a chair and hit with a crowbar and whatever before he finally went down, So I think it's a good step.
I think Brock's able to take a loss here easily. Brock's able to take a loss any time easily because one thing Brock does time and time again comes out and he tests you like luggage. I mean, he doesn't do anything much different, but he can do that to you anytime. And then he's got Paul Heyman right there by his side to sell his shit. And so he can take a hit like losing to Dean Ambrose from time to time, and it won't hurt his character at all.
That's true. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, even if it wasn't a street fight and they just booked it as a straight match and Dean was booked to win clean, I mean, Brock could come out the next night, the Raw after WrestleMania, and just suplex 20 guys and he's right back over again.
Yeah, Paul Heyman comes out the next night and says, it only took this and this for Dean Ambrose to beat the Beast. Right. It took all this because he couldn't do it, and they might have a rematch the next night on Monday night. They'll give you something for free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's a good point. Brock is like, it's sort of like the way Cena is. Like John Cena, I mean, shit, he lost to Daniel Bryan, he lost to a bunch of, he lost to CM Punk a couple years ago, and like he lost to CM Punk like 3 or 4 times in a row in really big matches. And it didn't hurt him because he's fucking John Cena. He's not ever going to be lower than what he is. He's pretty much bulletproof. And that's kind of where Brock is too. I think, it doesn't really matter if he loses every once in a while because he's always going to be over because he's Brock. All right. So next was a match between Ryback and Sin Cara with Sin Cara's tag team partner, the United States champion Kalisto, on the outside watching. Ryback pins Sin Cara with the shell shock. Pretty short match, which is basically just Ryback making an example out of Sin Cara for Kalisto. And he's saying, this is what happens when a little guy meets a big guy, and then he challenges Kalisto for a WrestleMania match for the US title. Very simple, very easy. Ryback has a chip on his shoulder, wants to prove himself, wants to move up, wants to stop fucking around down in the undercard, wants to win some championships and get some attention and break the glass ceiling. He's targeted Kalisto as enemy number 1. He's saying, I'm going to kick your ass, little man, and take your US title. There you go. Boom. I think that's terrific. It's fucking easy and simple. And I hope that they stick with this and don't throw a bunch of extra people into the match. I would like to just see Ryback versus Kalisto for the US title at WrestleMania. And I don't even care who wins because I think you could tell a good story either way. But I like, so far, they've done a really simple, easy build up for this match. And I kind of like it. What do you think?
Was the backstage moment with the WWE legend prior to this, with the handing of the torch?
I think that was after, wasn't it?
We'll talk about it after this.
Yeah, I think that was after.
They have it on the WWE website, which I absolutely hate the way they've redone their fucking website. Let me know underneath here if you agree with me.
Yeah.
Kalisto, wow, all black. I'm digging the all black outfit that he's wearing. I mean, it could just be shades of things to come. I've been saying something about a heel turn from one of these guys. But I mean, obviously Kalisto has a big Lego in the way. And that would be Mr. Ryback himself, which I think that, I mean, it's a perfect push for him. This is the way you push a big guy like Ryback. Go in there, and he went in there, handed it to Sin Cara, walked the fuck out, just said, that's what I do. Big guys do. That's what big guys do, little guys. And I love the way he just walks the fuck out. I dig that. Just don't need to stand around and parade. Don't give a shit. I'm just here, do my job, kick your ass, and get the hell out of here. I love that. Short, simple, sweet. Don't have to hear feed me more, feed me more.
And that kind of push almost always works. You know, if the guy has the right look and he's booked strong enough and they do it long enough, they just have him come in and fucking kill people and walk out. Like eventually that they almost guys who are pushed that way and can fill that role and do it convincingly, they almost always get over. Like I don't understand why they don't do that more often, because it's the perfect.
Goldberg, all he had to do was breathe out some sparklers and then come in and jackhammer your ass. That's really all he did. I mean, he didn't. He was simple. I mean, the 10-second fucking matches. God damn. And he was like superstar.
Goldberg, exactly. Goldberg worked his way clear up to the main event and beat Hulk Hogan just by fucking squashing jobbers for a year. Think about that. I mean, so it works. You just, you know, it works.
Although I do apologize for actually referencing Goldberg when we're talking about Ryback.
That's true, yes. That's a sensitive spot, I'm sure.
Son of a bitch, I didn't even realize I did it.
The gear's looking kind of Goldbergy lately, but I think Ryback's a better worker than Goldberg.
Well, absolutely.
I think he's a better promo than Goldberg.
He's a trained fucking wrestler, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. He knows more than 2 moves, which is, you know, cool. Well, Goldberg had 3 moves. He had the kick.
Ask Brett about that.
Yeah. I know Brett will be watching this going, he had another move. Wait a minute,
that. It's just not funny.
He had another move. Yeah. The potato kick. He had the potato kick. All right. Next is a promo with Triple H and Stephanie. They come out and Triple H cuts. He goes on this long rant against the crowd, burying the crowd, saying that they're losers and they live their lives in hope, but they know that they'll never be able to do anything to make their lives any better. And, you know, they basically just, their only hope is to grow old and hope that that death comes soon to end it all, because they're going to end up growing up and like their family's going to leave them and they're going to be sitting in a shitty apartment because their spouse took the house from them and they just have nothing left. And that's the reason, because their lives are so shitty and they just cling to all these futile hopes. That's the reason that they invest their hopes in people like Dean Ambrose. And when he mentions Dean Ambrose, people cheer. And Roman Reigns. And when he mentions Roman Reigns, people boo, because they don't like being told that they like Roman Reigns, because they don't. So anyway, Triple H goes on for a while, and then he's interrupted by Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler comes out dressed like he's going to a high school dance in the 1980s. With like a pink shirt and a narrow, like, you know, straight tie. And he looks like he works at like a 50s themed diner or something. And
walked off an episode of 90210.
There you go. That's the reference I was reaching for. He looks like he walked off an episode of fucking 90210, like 1991. And he gets on the microphone and he basically says, you know what? I got nothing left to lose. You've been bullying me. You've been riding me. You've been jumping on my ass about stuff. You've been threatening to fire me. And I don't care. You can threaten to fire me 100 more times. You can put me in all the fucking tough matches you want. You can ignore me. You can hold me down. It doesn't matter, because I'm just going to keep coming out here and getting in this ring and busting my ass every single night. And Triple H says, well, Stephanie's like, well, you know what? If you don't feel like, if you don't care whether we fire you, I got something for you. And Steph is about to fire him. And then Triple H kind of steps in and he says, you know, Dolph, you don't have to be a loser. I mean, if you made friends with the right people, if you took advice from the right people, like maybe the Authority, you could be a winner instead of such a loser. And Dolph says, I would never, he did the Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, I'll never join you. And he said he wouldn't join forces with Triple H and Stephanie if they were the last 2 people on earth. And then he says something insulting to Stephanie, and Stephanie slaps him in the face and says, you know what, Dolph, I'll give you a chance to prove how good you are. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to put you in a match on Raw tonight. And if you can win the match, you can have any match at WrestleMania you want, except the world title match. Anything else, you can have whatever match you want. But your opponent is going to be Triple H. If you can beat Triple H tonight, you can have any match you want. And Dolph's like, okay. And Triple H is like, okay. And there we go. That's our match for the night. And I thought Triple H's promo here was pretty good. I thought he went on a little too long. It wasn't nearly as good as Steph's from a couple weeks ago. Steph's from a couple weeks ago was like, I mean, I'm still thinking about that. That was awesome. But it was pretty good from Hunter. It was a decent promo. I didn't think Dolph was that great. I didn't think he was like awful, but it just felt like he didn't have quite as much passion and fire as you would want him to have. And he looked like, he looked like he was scared of Stephanie and Triple H. Like he was bucking up to him, like he was sort of finding his courage, but he looked like he was scared of him. And that just didn't do it for me. But what did you think of this promo?
I'm right behind you on this one. I mean, but here's the difference. I could not take my freaking eyes off of Stephanie and her antics the whole time. From the moment she walked down to that ring, did her little jiggle dance, whatever she did, she looked great. I mean, her facial expressions are on key time and time again. I just completely get behind the fact that she thinks she's a special kind of lady and that you should respect that. And her name is McMahon, and you should respect that because she won't say I'm a Helmsley. I'm fucking McMahon. Triple H's rant, I think, went entirely way too long because I was getting a little bored by that. Just going on and on about how your life is going to end up completely worthless. I think it was in Douglas Adams or something, one of his books that I'm not going to quote it, but he said, the best thing about life is like, if life is troubling you, if you're the kind of person that life has been a pain in the ass, at the end of life you shouldn't worry about it because you'll realize that it will soon all be, or if you've had a great life, at the end of life you can look back at it and take pride in the kind of life you live. If it's been in a pain in the ass at the end of life, you can look back and be glad that it will soon all be over.
Right.
Life is what it is. Well, I mean, some people say you're either lucky or you're a bum. That's something like Trump would say.
Yeah, right.
Dolph Ziggler comes out and honestly, he showed to me, I mean, and it was for the first time, I've never really felt this way toward Dolph Ziggler because I've always thought that his potential is being held back, or I didn't see anything really wrong that he couldn't have a proper push. And then he starts talking. Yeah. And I just don't accept any of that kind of hoopla. He's going out there acting like he's, not worried about being fired. And no, I mean, I'm just not buying it. It's not sincere. And honestly, at this point, I don't know if it's because he's been held down for so long and I just don't care about Dolph Ziggler. But at this point in this match, I'm thinking I don't care if he has a WrestleMania match. I don't. It was boring me. Dolph Ziggler was boring me out there.
Well, and I mean, he doesn't have a story going into WrestleMania anyway, so it's not like there's something that Dolph's been doing that you think, you need to see a payoff for at WrestleMania. Like he hasn't been doing anything. The other problem I have with it is they have Dolph coming out and talking about how, he's sick of being pushed around by the Authority, but the Authority hasn't really done anything to him. I mean, on the show, in storyline, I mean, people like, smart mark wrestling fans like me talk about, Dolph's being held down, or Dolph's not being used right, or Dolph's being booked like shit, or Dolph is always, Dolph always loses. But that's all like outside of the show. That's like wrestling fan stuff. That's backstage stuff. On the actual show, yeah, Dolph has been losing a lot, but he usually loses clean. It's not like the Authority's coming out and fucking with his matches. It's not like, Stephanie's coming out and grabbing his leg or whatever and costing him matches. He's having good matches with people and he's always losing. And he loses clean. So within the story of the show, like, what the fuck is Dolph's beef with the Authority? He has matches and he gets beat. So what's his problem?
I just get the feeling that Ziggler's passion is completely gone at this point. That because you obviously can't get behind like your promos or what you're doing. You can't go out there and act on something you have no feeling for. It's just like you're just dead zone on it, deadpan. I got nothing. I don't feel this bullshit. I have to go out there because it's my job. and I know what's going to come of this, but now I've got to go out here and do this again. And then you look down the road of what it's going to cost you. It's like, man, it had to be heartbreaking for Dolph, and his heart was not in it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think because he's been in this loop for the last couple of years where every once in a while they'll build something up for him and then it just winds up being completely pointless. And yeah, I mean, he knows when he walks out to do that promo, he knows how the match is going to go. I'm sure he knows what the finish of the match is by that point. So he knows that he's going to go out and try to build up some interest and, oh, Dolph's going to beat Triple H and then he's going to get whatever match he wants at WrestleMania. But he knows that that's not going to happen, you know? So he has to go out and try to get that over knowing that it's completely pointless. And, you know, I'm sure after having to do that so often, it probably gets old. He's probably like, man, what the fuck? Like, what am I doing? You know?
Yeah, why didn't you send like confused R-Truth out there? Like, you know, he deserves one, you know? I thought this was, you know, a open WrestleMania challenge.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
My bad. Triple H just beats the shit out of him for being stupid, you know?
That would be funny. The Triple H just doesn't even say a word. Just fucking beats the shit out of him. All right, next is a match between my imaginary tag team partner, Sami Zayn, and The Miz. And this is a match, they go about 6 or 7 minutes, I think. Not an outstanding match, but a pretty good match, I thought. A decent TV match. Kevin Owens is on commentary and spends most of it arguing with Michael Cole and Byron Saxton for liking Sami Zayn too much. There's some distraction on the outside, and Owens ends up sort of accidentally distracting The Miz, although they have a little bit of heat between them anyway because of something that happened in a tag team match on SmackDown last week. And anyway, long story short, Sami Zayn ends up hitting Miz with his finish, the haluva kick, and getting the pin. And like I say, the match wasn't like outstanding, but it was fine. And it's good to see Zayn actually winning matches on TV to build him up. If they're going to put him in the Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania, which I assume they're going to do, I hope that they go with a one-on-one match with him and Kevin Owens, but they're probably going to make it like a ladder match or something and have like 5 or 6 guys in there and drain off all the fucking heat between Owens and Sammy. But I would love to see Owens versus Zayn one-on-one at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental title. I think that would be an awesome match. I think it would be a great way to sort of cap off their feud that they've been having through NXT over the last year or so and bring it up to the main roster and blow it off at WrestleMania and have Sammy win the Intercontinental title. I think that would be awesome. But who knows if that's what they're going to do. But for now, Sami Zayn, his second week full-time on the main roster, and he wins a match. So I'm happy. What do you think?
It's called hell of a kick. That's what they call it, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. I noticed when Sami Zayn's in pain, he looks a lot like Popeye. Like, you know, I mean, and I swear it's been driving me nuts ever since I've seen Sami Zayn. Like, he reminds me of someone I know. And I figured it out. I have a coworker, and he's actually one of my partners. I'm gonna see if I can meet him tomorrow and get a picture with him so I can post it up here. Except for he's not a redhead, he's fucking dead ringer for Sami Zayn. It's insane. This match. Yes, good to see Sami Zayn out there doing his thing, you know, teasing moves that I'm going to fly outside the ring, you know, a little showmanship, and then you stop and you pose, like, check me out, I'm Sami Zayn. Yes, I can do that stuff, and I cannot do that stuff when I want to. I thought they were building The Miz up for something, and it's still possible they're building him up for something because their seat's still there with Kevin Owens, you know. He shoved Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens gave it back. Well, I thought the distraction was a little off. But you know what? It is what it is. They want to put Sami Zayn over, and they accomplished that. Unfortunately, it was to the Miz cost, but maybe that story's not over yet. I'm not sure. I mean, they said they would like to make Miz strong for WrestleMania, but I haven't seen that happening.
No, yeah, not lately. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with The Miz either. I would like to see The Miz have something to do at WrestleMania. I mean, I have the feeling based on this that they're going to throw him in with the Intercontinental title match, whether it's Owens and Zayn and Miz, or, you know, throw somebody else in, you know, which I guess is all right. I don't know. I really don't like those train wreck, you know, 6-man matches, when it would be much better when there's really only a program between 2 people in the match and you'd rather just see that match. Oh, okay.
Now, they did a ladder match and Zayn got the belt. Then obviously Kevin Owens, being the former champ, gets the rematch. So then you could book that match.
Yeah, then you do that the next month.
But it wouldn't
right?
be. It wouldn't be WrestleMania, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though one of the greatest WrestleMania, two of the greatest WrestleMania matches ever were one-on-one matches for the Intercontinental title, but they haven't done one of those, it seems like, for a long time. Next, there was a backstage promo with Renee Young interviewing the League of Nations, where they officially challenged New Day to a match at WrestleMania. So I don't know how that's going to work, if it's going to be 4-on-3, or if New Day are going to get a partner or what, but it seems like they're building to like an 8-man or a 7-man tag team match between League of Nations and New Day at WrestleMania.
That's what it's going to be. I read reports that it's going to be on 4-on-3.
4-on-3. Okay. Well, if you know, New Day are baby faces, so they can come from behind and, you know, beat despite the disadvantage. That's fine, I guess.
Why not? It's going to be Barrett's probably last match.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I wonder who's going to get pinned. Right. Next was a Divas tag team match. The team of Naomi and Tamina versus the team of Brie Bella and Alicia Fox. Naomi and Tamina win when Naomi pins Brie with a DDT, and Tamina had picked Brie up into like a slam position, and Naomi DDT'd her for the pin. But this was after there was a distraction from Lana, who was outside sitting on the announce table, because Lana is feuding with Brie for some reason that even the announcers don't know. Like, the announcers have to say, we really don't know what Lana's problem is with Brie. And then after the match, Naomi and Tamina fucking kick Alicia Fox's head off outside the ring. So, I mean, the match was really nothing. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't really great either. It was just kind of there. The fucking double kick that Alicia took looked awesome and looked fucking nasty. I mean, I don't even know if they know why Lana is coming out and fucking up Brie's shit. I think they just figured, oh, we need something for them at WrestleMania. Fuck it. Lana doesn't like Brie for some reason. Whatever, you know.
I was enjoying this match, but I could not help. Let me be real here. I was not enjoying this match. This is straight up typical Devo bullshit. Just women's showcasing women, blah blah blah. Not women's wrestling, just showcasing women. Yeah. And honestly, I didn't think 2 of them were women, because Team Bad, I kept looking at them going like, "That's a mad baby," yeah, because they both looked a little manlish, I would say. And I hate to say that, but they certainly didn't look like any divas. I don't know. It was just a really ugly match to me. And Lana comes down there for the distraction. She sits up in front of Michael Cole, which Michael Cole had to be like the happiest freaking man for the night, staring at the backside of Lana. I'll give her that much. But I mean, really, what's she bringing to the table except for her ass? She jumps up there and then she does the distraction, which is not really a distraction. And the best she can do is like constantly grab. This is her thing, grabbing the side of her coat and like, I'm Lana.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? I'm not impressed. And I used to be really, really impressed with Lana. But now they've thrown her into this role, and I think it's kind of, I would say retarded, but I would say it's retarded.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I don't know what anybody's doing. Like, I don't know what Lana's role is anymore. I don't know why she has a problem with Brie. I don't know if I should want to see them wrestle, because you never really see Lana wrestle. Like, I don't know what about this am I supposed to give a shit about? And it doesn't really get any better in the next segment. Well, first we have the Social Outcasts do a Burger King commercial backstage for Burger King. And then Paige is being interviewed backstage, and Lana shows up to fuck with Paige and make fun of Paige for being on Total Divas and for hanging out with all those American girls on Total Divas. So Paige, fires back at Lana and says, well, you just jumped from man to man. And then Naomi and Tamina show up to back up Lana. And so I guess they're going to do Paige and Brie and Alicia versus Naomi and Tamina and Lana at WrestleMania as a 6-person tag match. Okay, I mean, that's a fine way to get them all on the show, I guess, but I still don't know what the fuck they're fighting about, you know? And I don't know if it's going to be a good match or not.
Team Bad makes sense. I mean, it makes sense to keep them together. They are family, legit family, I guess. So I guess it's okay for them to continue. There should be no heat between those two at least. So I just, for some reason, I can't get behind them. I think some of the new maneuvers that Naomi's picked up is a little silly. The kicks that she does, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all new to me, and maybe the guy go out there and these divas really know they got to step it up because there's got some really stiff fucking competition heading their way. There's plenty of them in NXT that are already a lot better than what they can bring to the table, and there's already a huge crop of them already in the WWE, which are stealing the fucking spotlight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. The Divas division is in kind of a weird spot where, like, you have the women who came up from NXT who can work and have shown that they can get over in the ring and get people to care about their matches. And then you have the ones like Brie and Alicia and Naomi who are sort of holdovers from sort of the previous regime who are still trying to earn their spot and have a place for themselves. And it's weird to see, like, it's almost like they have 2 Divas divisions. They have the ones that can work and then the ones that are sort of, from last year, Next, speaking of the Divas division, there was also a promo backstage. Charlotte and Ric Flair get interviewed, and Charlotte buries Sasha and Becky, saying that they're just NXT wannabes. And she talks about how, she remembers when Sasha was so nervous before a match that Charlotte had to hold her hair when she threw up, and Becky Lynch never had any friends, and she just, would come nosing around Charlotte to have someone to talk to. And now they act like they run the place, and now they think there's somebody, and they think that they could actually beat Charlotte for the Divas title. I thought it was a really good heel promo from Charlotte, actually. What'd you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought to myself, Sasha wasn't throwing up from being nervous. She's probably binging. She references knowing them before they, I guess, had their gimmicks, which I really liked.
Yeah.
And Charlotte's just strong right now. There's no reason why anybody right now should come close to, could come close, but definitely nowhere near taking that title off of her for quite a long time. I think that that she has to suffer through some great battles to get to that wear and tear where it is possible that she could lose the belt, but you have to throw her through some really good matches, and I think that would take some time. So WrestleMania is too soon for Charlotte to lose to these girls. She's already proven that she can go in there and handle both of them.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about this last week, and I've completely sort of turned around. Until a couple weeks ago, I thought the way to go was to put the belt on Sasha at WrestleMania, but now I'm seeing it your way, dog. I'm like, I don't know, Charlotte. She's so strong. She's so comfortable in that role as like a dominant heel champion. Mm-hmm. And I'm the same way. I say have her keep the belt at WrestleMania, and maybe bring up one of the women from NXT. Maybe bring up Bayley finally, and build to something between the two of them at SummerSlam. Like, take your time. Don't fucking do it right away. Build up to something like Charlotte versus Bayley at SummerSlam. And if the time is right, take the belt off of her there. Because, yeah, I mean, right now, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And she's really doing a good job with that title right now.
Mm-hmm. And if we can flood the WWE with more women wrestlers, I say women wrestlers, maybe we can see a reformation of the 4 horsewomen down the road.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Hey, call up Bayley. You got all 4 of them right there.
Mm-hmm.
You got all the pieces in place. Yeah. Oh, man. And call up Nia Jax. Call up Asuka. Just have Asuka come in and just kick everything in sight. Here's the match, Asuka. Kick everything that moves.
She would be like Flair's Sting.
Yes. Yes. That would be great. Next, there was a tag team match between the Usos and Bo Dallas and Adam Rose with the Dudley Boys on commentary. The Dudleys say that the Usos have been using their Samoan heritage as a crutch, and they also bring up the fact that they have a fat ass for a father, meaning Rikishi. Match itself was pretty short. The Usos throw a couple of super kicks and hit the Superfly splash and win the match. It's basically just a short match to showcase the Usos and to give the Dudleys a chance to talk shit about them. So there you go.
I couldn't get my mind off that freaking Burger King grilled hot dog that they were talking about backstage. I mean, and it's, I realize they got to do this. It's a little silly when you see wrestlers doing. It's one thing if you saw an actual produced commercial on television and a wrestler's in that commercial. It's another thing when they're doing a advertisement live.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Possibly live. It could be pre-recorded, probably pre-recorded. But just doing it backstage like that, they do come off a little weird. And this is where I talk about it. I never thought that I'd see the day that jobbers get promo time. And I don't know how I feel about that. It's weird. I guess I'm happy because they're still employed.
Yeah.
And it just come down and they kicked the crap out of them. I guess it's to push the upcoming WrestleMania match between them and the Dudley Boys. But still, I want a Burger King grilled hot dog.
No, I don't want one either.
Well, I do. I want one.
You do? Oh, you want one? They're
pricey though. I can go to Sheetz and get 2 of them for 99 cents.
I was just gonna say, if I want a hot dog, I'll go to Sheetz.
Yeah, for the price of a grilled hot dog at Burger King, I can get 4 Sheetz hot dogs.
So yeah, sorry, Burger King. And plus, you're Burger King. You're not Hot Dog King.
They say they're all beef.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, they're the only hot dogs in the fucking United States that are. Then
we got as much beef as we are legally allowed to tell you we've got.
Right. The USDA told us exactly how much we have to put in to call it all beef, and that's exactly how much there is.
If you want to prove us wrong, Burger King, then send us some free grilled hot dogs so that we can try them, and that way we'll be able to disprove it on next week's episode.
Yeah, we'll do a taste test and just see what happens. Okay, now next is the segment backstage with Dean Ambrose, where Dean is just, I guess, alone in the locker room, kind of just walking around with his crowbar, and then Mick Foley comes in, and he's like, "Hi, Dean Ambrose," and Dean Ambrose is like, "Hi, Mick Foley." And Mick kind of gives him a pep talk a little bit. I mean, he's like, "Why are you fighting Brock Lesnar? What's the matter with you? And aren't you scared?" And Dean's like, "Well, weren't you scared when Undertaker threw you off the top of the Hell in a Cell?" And he's like, "Yeah." And they kind of go back and forth. And Foley says, "Well, as long as you're determined to fight Brock at WrestleMania, I got a little present for you." And he pulls out a big red Christmas box and kind of walks away, and Dean opens the box and reaches in, and he pulls out a baseball bat wrapped up in barbed wire. One of the classic Cactus Jack Mick Foley weapons. So it's sort of Mick like passing the torch of hardcore, so to speak, to Dean Ambrose. Like, here you go, kid. You might need this when you fight Brock. So I don't know. I thought it was neat. I thought it was all right. I mean, I guess we didn't necessarily need it, but it's nice to see Mick sort of giving the rub a little bit to Dean's. I thought it was cool. What'd you think?
Well, you had to put Mick on TV. I mean, we had noticed before this that a WWE Hall of Famer was going to be on television, and that was going to be Mick Foley, and there he was. I think it was brilliant because if you don't really know who Dean Ambrose is or what Dean Ambrose has done or what the kind of matches Dean Ambrose has gone through prior to him actually getting on WWE television, then you can see that not just before he got on WWE television, he had an encounter face-to-face with Mick Foley. But Mick Foley having the same type of career and doing shit just because that's what he does. That whole mentality and just verbally expressing that on television made sense to me. I thought that this whole passing the torch to Dean almost kind of solidified Dean in my eyes as because it made me go and check out some stuff. I saw some really cool memes and on Facebook where I'm like, holy shit, is that glass through his back? So you start hitting YouTube and you see some of this shit, and I'm like, okay, I understand now. You are pretty crazy, and I could see why you'd want to go up against a guy like Brock because you simply just don't give a fuck. you're there for the fight.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I thought it was brilliant. But although, this was a back covered in barbed wire, not the back covered in barbed wire, that thing's probably still out for testing. I don't know how much freaking diseases are on that thing. And also, Mick Foley's not famous just for the barbed wire bat. I mean, he also had the chair that he carried around, like, have a nice day. But I thought this was a really good segment, and I was glad to see Mick back on television. I think it was strong. We need something to bring sense to why Dean is the way he is. If you don't understand, if you haven't really searched him up on YouTube, if you're just following on WWE, this guy is a crazy son of a bitch.
Oh, fuck yeah. He used to have some fucking bloody ass matches when he was John Moxley. Yeah. All right, now is the Triple H versus Dolph Ziggler match. In a shocking finish, Triple H pins Dolph with a pedigree. I know you probably didn't see that coming, everybody, but yeah, that's what happened. Actually, it was a really good match, I thought. The finish was a foregone conclusion. I don't think anybody in the arena or watching the show expected that Dolph had a chance in hell winning this match. But still, it was a good match. They do actually build to some nice near falls for Dolph, even though it does. I mean, it builds a little bit of drama, but again, you know that Dolph's not winning this match. It's just not happening. And Dolph ends up losing the match. And so Dolph lost, which means he doesn't get to make his match at WrestleMania, which means this match didn't really change anything. And they didn't define a stipulation for what would happen to Dolph if he lost.
Mm-hmm.
So the match was just kind of pointless because you figure Dolph loses the match. Nothing bad is going to happen to Dolph if he loses. But you figure, I mean, Dolph is probably going to get some kind of a match at WrestleMania anyway, even if it just ends up having him thrown into the Andre Battle Royal. I mean, he's going to be on the show somehow. So this match really is going to wind up being completely pointless, like everything that they've done with Dolph for the last few years.
Now, see, I haven't heard anything else out of this. I mean, we all know what the situation with Wade Barrett is. Now, I've heard reports that there is another WWE talent.
I've heard that too.
Given their notice, they haven't said. I guess they haven't said anything about it yet. But there is apparently another WWE talent who is not re-signing with them when their contract is up. So, who knows? I mean, maybe there's a reason why they want to keep him off of WrestleMania.
Maybe, yeah. When I heard that rumor too. And Dolph was like the first person I thought of, but then I thought I read about Dolph just re-signed last year. I mean, maybe he gave his notice, maybe he asked for his release or something. Like I don't know, but I thought, damn, Dolph just re-signed last year. I thought, why would he be wanting to get out already? But maybe he's just fed up. If he's the one, I mean, it could be somebody else. And then after the match, the big angle where Roman Reigns comes running out, or actually he comes walking out. And beats down Triple H to a very mixed reaction.
Mm-hmm.
A few people were cheering, but it was a lot of boos and also a lot of just nothing. A lot of people just didn't seem to give a shit one way or the other, which was very different from 3 weeks ago when Triple H beat the shit out of Roman Reigns and was cheered to the rafters like the biggest babyface of all time. So not quite the reaction I maybe think they were hoping for. He busts Triple H open. Triple H has a big old fucking, cut on his head, blood all over the side of his head. They fight backstage. Roman ends up having to get sort of, stopped by the Usos and Mark Henry. They kind of sort of have to hold him back, although he doesn't really put up much of a fight. I mean, once the Usos and Mark show up, and Mark's basically just like, hey, wait, do it at WrestleMania. And Roman's just kind of like, okay. Because even when he's trying to be angry, he doesn't really seem like he gives a shit. So yeah, I don't know. This to me, if I was Vince or I was Triple H or somebody else backstage, this segment would worry me. Because Roman comes out for his big return after being off TV for like 3 weeks and finally gets him some of Triple H, the guy who put him out and broke his face, and nobody gave a shit. And this is the match that they want to have as the main event of WrestleMania. This is the world title match at WrestleMania. Triple H defending against a guy that nobody gives a fuck about. That,
I would think, at this point, you should call WrestleMania how the fans really would like to see it. If they boo the shit out, this is what you want to fucking do. If you are really, honestly, it's like Trump getting the nomination. It's like, really, if this is really, really going to happen, and I cannot believe you're actually going to fucking go through with this shit. But if you're really going to do it, then you should go with, honestly, a live audience feeling. If the audience doesn't feel up to that Roman should win, if you can't get them in that match to get behind him, if you can't sell it, if they're constantly just wanting Triple H to beat him, then fucking just let Triple H beat him. That would be my last ditch effort to fucking get your ass over. Because if I can't, then it's time to go right back to the drawing board, because for some reason we can't seem to find the drawing board anymore. I don't know where the fuck that thing went to. That's why you're stuck in the rut you are.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they even mentioned it on this show at one point. They want to sell 100,000 tickets to WrestleMania. They're having WrestleMania at the Dallas Cowboys football stadium this year, and they want to sell 100,000 tickets. They want it to be the biggest crowd they've ever had. Last I heard, the show had not sold out yet. They have not sold 100,000 tickets to WrestleMania. And if they're hoping that Roman Reigns versus Triple H is going to get them there, I don't think that's going to do it. I just don't see that show headlined by that match drawing 100,000 people. I mean, I just don't think it's going to happen. And yeah, I mean, if this doesn't get any better in the next 3 weeks, which I don't think it will, I don't see how it can. I agree with you, Doc. Have Triple H beat him, and don't put the match on last. You know, put fucking Shane versus Undertaker on last, because they're treating that like the main event anyway.
Which will also be shitty.
Which will also be shitty, but I mean, they put that match on last on this show. Like, we're going to talk about that in a minute. The last segment of the show was devoted not to Roman and Triple H, but to Vince and Shane and Undertaker. So put that match on last, have Triple H beat Roman, and then come up with a hot angle for the next night on Raw. You know, have Triple H pop a big TV rating, make the Raw after WrestleMania like a big memorable thing. You know, whatever you're gonna do, have fucking Dean beat him for it, have somebody else come up and beat him for it. You know, just do a surprise, you know, title switch on Raw the next night, and just fucking kill the Roman Reigns experiment at WrestleMania.
When Shane beats the Undertaker, he just comes out Monday night and fires fucking Triple H. Then the title gets vacant,
and then we have a tournament again.
Yep.
Yes, I don't see how Roman winning the title at WrestleMania from Triple H is going to work. I just don't see how that's going to pop that arena, that stadium. I don't see people like fucking jumping up on their feet and cheering for Roman Reigns. I see people booing or just sitting on their hands, you know, because that's what they did for this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next.
But I did love that beatdown backstage. That and they did show the video where Triple H threw that luggage or that hardcore case down. They've thrown it. I guess he just threw it to try to stop Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
The referee comes around the corner at that one moment, and you could see it. And as soon as he hit that, I was like, oh, because I realized I hit him like right in his shin bone. Yeah. And you saw him limp away. He limped the fuck off camera. But yeah, you should check out the video because it shows how deep that freaking cut was and getting stitches in that thing. And that was a nasty injury for a referee.
Yeah.
But let's get to the next one. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say the beatdown itself was actually was okay. It's just that nobody gave a shit about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, yeah. But speaking of nasty injuries, yeah, this the next match is between Neville and Chris Jericho. Neville wins by DQ after Chris Jericho shoves the referee. The reason Chris Jericho shoved the referee was that Neville fucking hurt the shit out of himself during the match. Apparently, after the match, it was confirmed that I think he broke his ankle and he broke his collarbone. I think he did a Hurricane Rana and just fucked it all up, and was legitimately really seriously hurt, and they had to improvise a finish to the match. And there's some other stuff too where Jericho tried to pin him, but the referee didn't count three because Neville's shoulder wasn't down, and they're trained not to count three unless the guy's shoulders are actually down. Jericho was apparently legitimately pissed off at Charles Robinson for not counting the 3 count because Jericho knew that Neville was hurt and just wanted to end the match. And that's why he shoved the referee. But that wound up being the finish. The referee called for the bell. There was a DQ. They got Neville out of there. Jericho grabbed the microphone and sort of quickly cut a promo on AJ Styles, which then brought AJ out. And AJ hit Jericho with the flying forearm, and that ended up being the end of the segment. I actually thought they did a really good job of salvaging it, considering that Neville, that injury that made Neville unable to finish the match. Like, they had to think on their feet from that point on and figure something else out. So having Jericho, you know, sort of get to some kind of finish to the match, and then, you know, cut the promo on AJ to have an excuse for AJ to come out to do something to finish it. I thought that was actually pretty quick thinking on their part. But yeah, it looks like Neville's going to be out for a couple of months.
Yeah, but this was a shame. I mean, obviously this could have been a lot better match, and it ended abruptly. Chris Jericho, as a professional, knew. I mean, both people were doing their job. Chris Jericho is in a state of mind that says he knew. Neville, you can see it clearly. There's a video out there that shows you this a lot clearly, with the microphones tuned up a little bit. Neville tells the referee he's hurt. He rolled. He was really hurt. He told Jericho this. He told Chris Robinson this. Which should just climb a little nature. Yeah. So this all was communicated between both of them. And Chris Jericho even said, you know, confirmed it. You're hurt, and it's like he just rolled him up. He's like, I'm going to pin him, and he went for the 1, 2, 3. Obviously, yeah, the referee did the right thing. I mean, he's doing his job. That's what we're taught to do. Your fucking shoulders are down. We're counting 3. If they're not, we're not counting 3. Jericho gets up. He's heated a little bit, and he shoves the referee because that's just another out. That's why he did it. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? He's pissed. Generally, he's just pissed. And then Charles gets pissed right back at him. He's like, don't you fucking touch me. He's like, right in his face, don't you fucking touch me. And I'm like, this is great. And of course, you know, you think to yourself, they're amping it up a little bit right now. They are professionals. They realize there's probably a little heat, but they realize that they could sell this. And then, you know, obviously Jericho goes for the mic, which I realized was because he had to waste time. I don't even think AJ Styles was supposed to come in.
No, I don't think so either.
But yeah, it looks like Neville suffered a broken ankle and broken shin bone. And he's surgery will not be needed. Expected back between 2 and 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, but yeah, you're right. I mean, they were professionals, and they figured out they worked themselves out of it, which, you know, is good. It looked a little awkward, but it didn't look as bad as it could have, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, canvas can be tricky. I mean, you try to do those baseball slides. I've seen people get caught up in the ring aprons, accidentally get caught up in the ropes. I mean, it's possible. It's just one of those random happenstance things that happen. It's what we do. I mean, shit, you injured yourself.
yeah, exactly. All right, let's talk about this promo at the end of the show. Vince comes out, and once again, he reminds us that Shane's not going to be his son anymore after WrestleMania, because Undertaker is going to beat him up real bad. And then Taker himself comes out, and after Taker's entrance is over, Vince says to Taker, just one thing, don't you ever put your hands on me ever again. So Taker's like, oh yeah? And he takes his coat off very slowly. He takes his hat off very slowly and throws it aside. And he's about ready to get in Vince's face when Shane comes walking out. Shane gets in the ring, and he says, you know what, Undertaker, I know that I'm in for the match of my life against you at WrestleMania, but I figured out how to beat you. And then Shane tries to tell Undertaker how he's going to beat him, but he ends up just kind of fucking up the promo, which is too bad, because it's a really important promo and it's a really big spot on the show. I think what Shane was trying to say was that he's going to try to blow Undertaker up. He's going to work him and make him run, and, you know, make him just sort of exhaust himself. And then he's also going to do crazy Shane stuff. He said, I'm going to use my body as a weapon. I'm going to jump around. I'm going to throw myself at you. That's what I think he was trying to say. He fucked up the promo a little bit. So anyway, Undertaker says, whatever you try, it's not going to be enough, because I've got these. And he holds up his fists, the soup bones, as he used to call them in his biker days. And he says, and these are my legacy, even more than WrestleMania. And there's nothing you can do to defeat these. And Shane talks a little bit more, and he ends up calling Undertaker Vince's bitch. And Taker's like, what? And fucking grabs him to choke slam him. Shane slips out. They start brawling. Shane, his punches aren't any better this week than they were last week. Him and Taker brawl a little bit. Shane throwing his crappy little punches. And he pushes Taker out. Vince shoves Shane back in, I think. Shane gets out of the corner with Undertaker, and Vince shoves him back in. Taker grabs him and choke slams Shane, and looks like he's going after Vince too, but Vince rolls the fuck out of there and gets out. They play Undertaker's music, and that's the end of the show. This was really, really sloppy. This segment was not good. I think most of that is on Shane. He fucked up his promo. I think physically he didn't do a good job. Those punches still look terrible. He just doesn't look like anybody who could do anything to the Undertaker. And I didn't feel any heat or any chemistry between him and Taker at all. Like, these guys, they don't seem like two guys who are about to have a fucking brutal match for the control of the company at WrestleMania. I just didn't feel any heat between them at all. So this was not good. Shane did not do well. And I don't know. It's kind of worrying, because it does feel like they're pushing this as the last match at WrestleMania. Like, this is the real actual main event. And it's not. It's losing steam by the day, which is a bad sign.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, your headliner is Undertaker, which he's just a showcase. He's a WrestleMania showcase. He doesn't really do anything else other than that. I did like this opening segment. Vince comes out, it's like, first off, don't touch me ever again. Yeah, you know, and of course, Undertaker shows is like, I'll kick your ass. I'm the fucking Undertaker, boy. Exactly. What are you talking about? And he's like, but maybe I misspoke. I'm sorry about that. You know, I spoke too soon. But yeah, and Shane comes out, does his little mess up, and this is not the first little promo mess up he's done. Obviously, he hasn't worked out the rust yet, not even out of being able to speak. And you know, yeah, he stands out there and he jaws off to the Undertaker. Now, here's how I felt about this the whole time. I'm like, I've run into people who I've done training, professional wrestling. I've done all that. I'm completely trained. Now I've got guys who really went no further than where I started, which was backyard wrestling. They've done nothing more than backyard wrestling. And they come to me and they talk about what kind of badass they are and badass things they've done in backyard wrestling. And they stand up to me, and I just kind of like, I'm just standing there like, honestly, really, are you really trying to intimidate me with that bullshit? And I kind of like, this is the way the Undertaker standing there listening to Shane McMahon, or I like to call him George McFly at the time, because he's looking down at him like, Biff's like, what'd you say? Hello, McFly. I mean, honestly, the Undertaker had to feel that, and that's why he's like, hey, that's not gonna be enough, son. You know, like, that's all. This is all I need. I'm gonna kick your ass. You know, shit. So, you know, he calls him his little bitch. Huge mistake. You don't call Undertaker a bitch. I mean, he's the workhorse of the WWE. That was completely disrespectful. And if he chokeslammed you straight to hell, you would have deserved it. But he escaped. And then all of a sudden, he turns into a Looney Tune character, because he looks like he's getting ready to take off running. Yes. But he's going nowhere. You know, he's just like standing there like, ah. And they're supposed to be punches. Yeah. But that's what he looks like, you know, like he's just getting ready to take off like a roadrunner. Horrible. I can only hope that Undertaker finds a way to be able to sell it. Undertaker's great at being able to work with people who don't have a whole lot of wrestling ability. So hopefully they work out something. I don't know, but right now you're right. It just does not have a feeling of being a great main event. The only thing that I would hope for is that it does. The only thing that would make you feel good is knowing that it might kickstart a new genre of wrestling or a new era of wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, they keep dropping that as a hook, you know, Shane saying, after I win, things are going to be different around here, you know. Well, okay. But I mean, it's like, you remember like 3 weeks ago when Shane came out and it was all a surprise. We were like, oh shit, Shane's back. Oh shit, Shane's wrestling the Undertaker. And then it's like, wait a minute, are they even going to be able to have a match? Like, can Shane even work a match with the Undertaker? And yeah, I mean, just shit. The punches don't look good. You know, the knee when he throws those little knees. It's like, what the fuck is that?
Mm-hmm.
It's you know. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Well, before we take our leave for a week, Doctor, do you have a legend of the week we can tell the folks about?
I do indeed have a legend, not just a legend, but a movie star
Oh,
and a former governor.
oh my.
Let's talk about Jesse the Body Ventura. And I think we've done this as a legend before. This is why I've been going through all of our old episodes. I'm trying to figure out, like, over the last 90 some episodes,
Yeah.
how many what legends I've actually done. But let's see. Ventura was born James George Janos on July 15th, 1951 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the son of George William Janos and his wife, Bernice Martha. Both of his parents were World War II veterans. Ventura has an older brother who served in the Vietnam War. Ventura has described himself as Slavic, since his father's parents were from what is known as Slovakia. His mother was of German descent, Donovan, not you. Ventura was raised as a Lutheran, born in South Minneapolis by the Lake Street Bridge. He attended the Cooper Elementary School, Sanford Junior High School, and graduated from Roosevelt High School in 1969. Roosevelt High School inducted Ventura into its first Hall of Fame in September 2014. Ventura served in the United States Navy from December 1st, 1969 to September 10th, 1975 as a member of the Underwater Demolition Team 12. During the Vietnam War era, he graduated in BUD/S Class 58 in December 1970 and was part of Underwater Demolition Team 12. Ventura has frequently referred to his military career in public statements and debates. He was criticized by hunters and conservationists for stating in an interview with the Minneapolis Star Tribune in April 2001, "Until you have hunted men, you haven't hunted yet." Let's go into his wrestling career. This is basically, we know that he did like Navy stuff and was pretty high up there. He created the stage name Jesse the Body Ventura to go with the persona of a bullyish beach bodybuilder, picking the name Ventura from a map as part of his Beach Blonde from California gimmick. As a wrestler, Ventura performed as a heel and often used the motto, "Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat," even going so far as having himself a t-shirt made with the words printed on the front. Much of his flamboyant persona was adapted from superstar Billy Graham, a charismatic and popular performer during the 1970s and 80s. Years later, as a broadcaster, Ventura made a running joke out of it, claiming that Graham stole all of his ring attire ideas from him. In 1975, Ventura made his debut in the Central States Territory before moving to the Pacific Northwest, where he wrestled for promoter Don Owen as Jesse the Great Ventura. During his stay in Portland, Oregon, he had notable feuds with Dutch Savage and Jimmy Snuka and won the Pacific Northwest Wrestling title twice and the tag team titles 5 times. He later moved to his hometown promotion, the American Wrestling Association in Minnesota, and began teaming with Adrian Adonis as the East-West Connection in 1979. His RF video shoot in 2012, he revealed that shortly after he arrived in AWA, he was given the nickname The Body by Vern Gagne. The duo won the promotion's World Tag Team Championship on July 20th, 1980 on a forfeit when Vern Gagne, one half of the Tag Team Championships along with Mad Dog Vachon, failed to show up for a title defense in Denver, Colorado. The duo held the belts for nearly a year, losing to the High Flyers, George Gagne and Jim Brunzell. Shortly after losing the belts, the duo moved on to the World Wrestling Federation, where they were managed by Classy Freddie Blassie. Although the duo was unable to capture the World Tag Team Championships, both Adonis and Ventura became singles title contenders, each earning several title shots at World Heavyweight Champion Bob Backlund. Ventura continued to wrestle until September 1984, when blood clots in his lungs ended his in-ring career. He claimed that the blood clots were a result of his exposure to Agent Orange during his time in Vietnam. Ventura returned to the ring in 1985, forming a tag team with Macho Man Randy Savage and Savage's manager, Miss Elizabeth. Often after their televised matches, Ventura would taunt and challenge fellow commentator Bruno Sammartino, but nothing ever came of this. Ventura participated in a 6-man tag team match in December of 1985 when he, Roddy Piper, and Cowboy Bob Orton defeated Hillbilly Jim, Uncle Elmer, and Cousin Luke. I can see why they beat him. In a match which was broadcast on Saturday night's main event. The tag match against the Hillbillies came about after Piper and Orton interrupted Elmer's wedding ceremony on the previous edition of the show. Ventura, who later claimed that he was under instruction from fellow commentator and owner of the WWF, Vince McMahon, to bury them, insulted Elmer and his wife during commentary of what was a real wedding ceremony at the Meadowlands Arena by proclaiming when they kissed, it looked like two carp in the middle of the Mississippi River going after the same piece of corn. According to Ventura, the wedding was real, for at that time, the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board would not allow the WWF to stage a fake wedding in the state of New Jersey. So Stan Frazier, who was Uncle Elmer, and his fiancée had agreed to have a real in-ring wedding.
Wow.
After a failed comeback bid, Ventura hosted his own talk segment on WWF Superstar of Wrestling called The Body Shop, in much of the same heel style as Piper's Pit, though the setting was a mock gym. He began to do color commentary on television for All-Star Wrestling, replacing Angelo Mosca, and later Superstars of Wrestling, initially alongside with Vince McMahon and the semi-retired San Martino, and then just with McMahon after San Martino's departure from the WWF in 1988. Ventura most notably co-hosted Saturday Night's Main Event with McMahon, the first 6 WrestleManias, along with Gorilla Monsoon, and most of the WWF's pay-per-views at the time with Monsoon, with the lone exception for Ventura being the first SummerSlam in which Ventura served as the guest referee during the main event. Ventura's professional wrestling commentary style was an extension of his wrestling persona, which means he was a heel. He was always partial to the villains, which was something new and different at the time. McMahon, who was always looking for ways of jazzing things up, came up with the idea of Ventura doing heel commentary at a time when most commentators, including McMahon himself, openly favored the fan favorites. However, Ventura would still occasionally give credit where it was due, praising the athleticism of wrestlers such as Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Randy Savage, who was championed by Ventura for years, even when he was a face, a point Ventura regularly made on air to McMahon and Monsoon. Occasionally, he would even acknowledge mistakes made by heels, including those made by his personal favorites, such as Savage, or wrestlers managed by heels Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mouth of South Jimmy Hart. One notable exception to this rule was the WrestleMania 6 Ultimate Challenge title match between Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. Since they were both fan favorites, Ventura took a neutral position in his commentary, even praising Hogan's display of sportsmanship at the end of the match when he handed the title over to the Warrior after he lost, stating that Hogan was going out like a true champion. During the match, however, which was also the last match at WrestleMania he called, Ventura did voice his pleasure when both broke the rules, at one point claiming, this is what I like. This is what I like. Let the two goody two-shoes throw the rule book out and get nasty. Ventura's praise of Hogan's action was unusual for him because he regularly rooted against Hogan during his matches, usually telling fellow commentator Monsoon after Hogan had won a championship match at WrestleMania that he would come out of retirement and take this dude out. Hogan and Ventura were at one point close friends. However, Ventura abruptly ended the friendship after he discovered during his lawsuit against McMahon that Hogan was the one who had told McMahon after Ventura's attempt to form a labor union in 1984. Following a dispute with McMahon over the use of his image for promoting a Sega product, McMahon, who had contract with rival company Nintendo at the time, released Ventura from the company in 1990. Let's see. Talk about the litigation. He went over and worked with WCW. We're running a little late. I know that. Went back to WWE. Also, hey, man, what a great acting career, man. A guy was in Predator. Apparently, let's see, he had starring roles in The Guardians of the Universe, Running Man, Demolition Man. I love Demolition Man. Batman and Robin, Major League 2. I mean, this guy's done a lot. And he's been a governor. And who knows? He could be a shit. Fucking Donald Trump could pick him as a running mate, for all I know. It would be a crazy world. It would be a crazy world. But I'm not going to go any further. If you want to know, I tell you, knowledge is power. Get on over on this thing called the internet and look up Jesse the Body Ventura. Look up some stuff on YouTube and watch this guy in action. He is a classic wrestler, a great guy, and one of the great speakers in wrestling.
Yeah, the best color commentator, I think, in the history of wrestling. I mean, Bobby Heenan maybe is also in that conversation, but for me personally, I mean, and Heenan was great at everything, but I mean, Jesse the Body is the best for me, the best color commentator ever. I mean, him and Gorilla Monsoon calling pay-per-views in the 80s and the early 90s was like as good as it got for me. He was awesome. And I used to love when he would do that after Hogan won and he would say, McMahon, I'm going to have to come out of retirement and win that title. I just thought that was hilarious. I thought it was great. And he was one of the only people on WWF TV who was allowed to flip shit to Hulk Hogan, and point out that Hogan was a cheater and that Hogan was a hypocrite. So I always appreciate that too when I watch it. Yeah, good legend. He was one of the greats.
When Roddy Piper does it, you say it's cheating, but when Hogan does it, it's all right then, isn't it, Monsoon?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, because Gorilla Monsoon was the same way. Gorilla Monsoon would be outraged when heels would do shit, and then he would look the other way when baby faces would do it. And
Ventura, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yes. And Jesse Ventura would be like, "Oh, come on, Monsoon." My favorite was when during Savage Steamboat at WrestleMania 3, when George the Animal Steele helped Ricky the Dragon Steamboat get back to his feet and get in the ring before he got counted out. And Jesse the Body said, "Look at this, Monsoon. What about this? I remember just earlier today, you were saying that the managers should not be out there touching the wrestlers. And look at this. What's going on here?" And Monsoon says, "Well, the Animal's not a manager, Jess. He's just a friend." It's like, okay, I guess that's different. Anyway, good legend. You want to bring us home, Doc?
I will, absolutely. I know we're running a little late, so let me do this really quick. Hey, if you like this video, I want you to subscribe to this channel. This guy brings you a lot more than just wrestling bullshit. He brings you actually intelligent shit that you should know. So get on over there, subscribe to this channel, become a Patreon, donate to this man's work. He would really appreciate that. Get on over to Facebook, like Wrestling with Wrestling. Find out who next week's legend's going to be. We're going to keep bringing it to you every week. We're really quickly coming up on episode 100, and we did have a question about that. I don't know what the fuck we're going to do. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm the Doctor, and I'm outie outie.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.